Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass, and thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast brought to you by Nutrien Ag Solutions, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, there's no shortage of news this weekend, and that certainly came from the weather as well. What you're looking at here is a snapshot early this morning of the upper-level winds, and we have seen multiple shortwave troughs in the form of cutoff lows that have moved along the west coast of the United States, and this is just the second in a series of 3 of these cutoff lows that we're going to be watching. Now, as a consequence of these cutoff lows, we have to wait for them to emerge out of the southwestern part of the United States before they really light things up across the midsection of the United States. And until then, we tend to get flow that kind of comes just straight out of the west like this, meaning that while we'll see broad areas of widely scattered showers across the midsection of the United States over the next couple of days, it will have to wait until this next big low emerges before things really get interesting. But do notice this, on the northern side of this, we do have some cold air coming out of Canada, and that will invade the United States toward the end of this week. So let's put it all together and try to understand how this is going to take shape. To do that, I'm going to rewind the clock quickly just to show you this past weekend. As that cutoff low came southward here along the west coast of the United States, it was able to put snow down in the Columbia Basin and then big snows here in the Sierra Nevada. Now, out ahead of it, as we just talked about, widespread rainfall from parts of north central Texas over to the mid-south, some locations picking up here between 1.5 inches and 2 inches of rainfall. And early this morning, storms were still lighting up right in through here. We're going to talk about the snow over the weekend and through this area, stretching over into the Ohio Valley. But before I get there, I want to show you something that was quite unique over the weekend that happened down here in Texas. So take a look at this. Texas will be the epicenter for the severe weather early this week, and they certainly got it over the weekend. You're here looking at the Midland-Odessa Radar, and I'm going to show you 2 separate supercells, one here and one here. Now, the supercell to the north had such a strong rear flank downdraft that it pushed the backside of this storm out at a speed recorded on the ground of over 130 miles an hour, producing some locally, incredibly strong winds and damage. Now, to show you what that looked like, I'm going to flip over to the Doppler velocity map, saying that we were able to measure pretty high above the ground 110 mile an hour wind. Both of these storms having strong RFDs producing wind speeds that were quite incredible. And it was impressive to see this as well. You see, our radars can also see vehicles on the interstate. And we were measuring the wind speed, well, not the wind speed, but the vehicle speed right here. And it was far slower than the storm speed that we saw over here in this part of Texas. Well, this is going to be an area that's going to continue to see quite a bit of active weather. And to the north of it, we could be adding more snow to where we saw it over the weekend. So this is how much we got over the weekend. Snow made it all the way to the basin floor here in the Columbia Basin. Big snow here in the north central part of the Rockies and coming out of Alberta, hitting this part of Montana. So adding snow where it had melted. Meanwhile, California here saw in some locations over 4 feet of snow in the Sierra Nevada. And then we saw widespread snow that moved out of parts of Colorado into Wyoming and then hit this part of South Dakota, Nebraska, northern Kansas relatively hard before spreading some light snow here into parts of the central and eastern Corn Belt. While I was watching that snow on Sunday, because that's where I live, and I grabbed this satellite animation because the snow that you see here in this clearing, well, with our warmer temperatures on Saturday, it did melt away. But there was some places in here that saw 5 to 6 inches of snow just completely evaporate and melt away on Sunday. So when I show you this next map, because you can see that happened up here in parts of Iowa as well, show you this next map, the snow that was here is now gone in this area, okay? But we did add quite a bit right up in this region, and we're going to be adding more in the near term. And we're trying to put this into the context of what we're going to be doing with our spring flood fight. So here's the main show. This cutoff low will be the main feature we're going to watch this week. It's going to take its dear sweet time to emerge here in the central part of the United States. Out ahead of it, the subtropical jet stream is still feeding in the moisture, which is what gave rise to the storms we see here early this morning. The cold air on the backside invades the United States behind this cutoff low by the time we get into this weekend. So let's diagnose it by taking a look at the upper level flow pattern. So I'm going to fast forward right into the day on Thursday. You see, this next low that comes through has 2 pieces to it. There's a lead wave that ejects here early, and then a second one that follows. And they're both going to run right over the top of the ridge that you see sitting over the southeast. We still have our omega pattern, but the question is, how long does that stick around? So let's fast forward from Thursday into the weekend. This is now Sunday. I'm going to be watching most carefully the position of this ridge as it's now forecast to slide back over toward the Aleutian Islands. This is round 3. So round 1 was this past weekend, round 2 is this week, and round 3 is this cutoff low you see right here that's coming through by the time we start next weekend. This one will be causing a main show right here, middle of next week, and we're going to talk about that in a few moments. We see the pattern by day 10 features this. And that is a very active one, but this is also one that brings in quite a bit of cooler weather to the western half of the United States. And if this pattern stays like this is going to keep this section of the U.S. on the wetter side of things, with more snow on the northern side of it and cooler weather out west. But I'm going to tell you, we lose our signal once we get out past the 26th of March. After that time period, our ensemble modeling, while it still shows clues of a trough here and a ridge somewhere over the Aleutian Islands, things are washed out too much to give us any sort of a definable signal, which is why I really want to stress that you watch my midweek technical analysis and long-range analysis on Wednesday so we can really diagnose how this pattern evolves into the month of April. Before we get there, though, this is how much snow I'm anticipating through the next week. It's the probability of getting at least 3 inches. We can see the main corridor for the snow is in through here and back in the Intermountain West and California. So the cutoff low comes down and emerges and runs just like this. And so we could be adding more snow into northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, western Nebraska, really much of Nebraska, and southern South Dakota, then pushing into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan. So as the system lifts, that's the main corridor for snow. But over the next 10 days, you can see our pattern featuring the strong subtropical jet, the cutoff lows coming in through here. The only places that are staying dry, Pacific Northwest, Canadian prairies, and down here in the Gulf Coast. The main flow cuts right in between all of that, which is where most of the action will be. So you can see who's looking wetter than average and who's looking drier than average through the next 10 days. Now, bringing this back to ag, remember, we're going to add a lot of rainfall in through here. Snowpack is going to pull in through this area, and we're going to add that to the map that's in the background that shows us calculated soil moisture anomalies. What this is doing is this active pattern is just going to keep the main drainage basin for the Mississippi, Missouri, and Ohio going to keep them saturated, which is going to just keep us out of the fields as we progress here toward the end of March and the beginning of April. We're going to watch how that evolves, though, very carefully. One improvement will be happening over here in California, though, and the drought that's in this part of Texas could help to be eroded away a bit with the flow pattern that we're going to be seeing over the next 10 days. But my main concern for this week is going to be the severe weather threat. As we let that lead wave emerge on Tuesday, we're going to go right back to where we started this video and hit that same corridor of Texas with strong to severe storms. By Wednesday, this stretches into a much bigger area as the lead wave comes out. We'll watch then the second one, the following one, emerge on Thursday. So again, Wednesday right in through here. As we get into Thursday, I'm going to show you this experimental product we have at Nutrien, suggesting that this whole area could be on the lookout here for strong to severe thunderstorms. Let's keep a very close eye on this, and I'm going to show it to you in the operational models in just a few moments. First, let's get to the near-term stuff. This is the high-resolution NAM model. We're going to be watching those main features I discussed. First, remember, throughout the day today, we just have the weak flow across the United States. There's an upper level low that's moving through parts of the Canadian, this part of Canada just south of Hudson Bay. So by mid-morning, light snow moving through parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. But as we said, in this area, just scattered showers, maybe some thunderstorms. We saw the thunderstorms early this morning in parts of Oklahoma, but as we work our way through the day on Monday, you just see broadly across this region with that weak, almost zonal upper level flow, just scattered showers in through here through Monday evening. Now the main show's back here, okay? Now let's watch what happens as we get into Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and early evening. So I told you this low comes out in 2 pieces. The first piece is here by Tuesday evening. And what I want to watch is the timing of that with the dry line. So we could possibly get some strong to severe storms in the overnight hours on Tuesday into Wednesday morning right in through here. But the lead wave, the big first push, is now getting rainfall through parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, getting into Iowa, Missouri. And then as we press through the morning on Wednesday, this gets northward into southern Minnesota and Wisconsin, and to the south of there, of course, so Iowa, Illinois, and Missouri. Now the second wave is still sitting back here. So to show you that, I got to go over to the operational European run. So let's let this play out to catch up with where we are. Okay, so where were we? We were right here Wednesday morning. There it is. So lead wave pushing here into Missouri, Iowa, southern Minnesota, Wisconsin, over into Illinois, with the back end of it coming back here into north central Texas. The main show is back over here in parts of the Baja of California. So lead wave, there it is, pushing by Wednesday afternoon through Illinois, over into parts of Michigan and Indiana. And to the south of it, we're going to see scattered showers and storms right in through here. This is now Wednesday night. By the time we get into the overnight hours on Wednesday into early Thursday, we're going to watch that dry line again right in through here. But you can see our low pressure system, the main one emerging here, while the first one pushes into the northeast. So let's get there. Thursday morning, low is sitting here. We're going to watch out ahead of it for the environment to moisten up with plenty of moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico, such that by Thursday afternoon, our low is sitting here on the borders of Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado. Look at the snow in northern Colorado, Wyoming, and western Nebraska and southern South Dakota. Look at the spacing of the isobars, very tight. But also notice the kink in the isobars right here. That is sitting right on the main warm frontal boundary. And this time of year, we can get strong to severe storms erupting on that warm frontal boundary. So I'm going to watch in through this corridor Thursday afternoon and evening, and then let that stretch down here to the main upper level front that's coming through parts of Arkansas into this part of Oklahoma and Texas. As we go through the evening hours on Thursday, getting into Thursday night into Friday morning, the low elongates here. The frontal boundary, the upper level low is sitting in this area. The upper level front is sitting in this area, and we're now seeing snow on the back side of this, blown around by some very strong winds. By the time Friday morning gets here, we've established a 1050 high sitting over parts of southern Saskatchewan, and then stretching between there and the low. Look at the spacing of the isobars. Extremely strong winds in this part of the United States. The cold front will sit right here, with the rainfall and the storms sitting on the leading edge of the upper level front there. So there's two separate fronts. As we get ourselves into the end of the week and weekend, high pressure takes over. Rainfall sits out ahead of it, right in here to parts of the Mid-South on Friday night, getting into Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon and evening. Now this is the coolest part of the week for us, but look what's happening back here. Over the weekend, we're going to watch on Sunday our third cutoff low come through California, and that's the one that's going to emerge middle of the week next week, giving us an almost identical pattern to what you just saw right here in the mid part of the United States. Not this coming week, but next week. So to show you that, let's just get a snapshot of this precipitation. This is through next Monday morning. We see the cutoff low, the first one, bringing in the heavy rainfall to California, big snow to the Sierra Nevada. Comes through the Intermountain West, dumping a bunch of snow. Then emerges here, bringing snow only to this area that I'm kind of highlighting in through here. Remember? To the south of that, this is mostly a rain event, coming in two waves, Wednesday and then into Thursday here. But with a lingering frontal boundary sitting here much of this week, this whole corridor is going to be wet. And that could be as much as 2 to 3 inches of rainfall, adding to the already saturated ground in this area. Where are we dry? Right here along the Gulf Coast, maybe up into the east coast of the United States, especially into the Carolinas until the end of the week. And then you see the Canadian prairies and the Northwest dry. Snowfall. Operational European run, we're just trying to find that heaviest corridor right in through this area. Big snows in California, maybe adding another 3 to 4 feet in the Sierra Nevada. So we're using this map just to see where the heaviest snow is expected to fall and what corridor from the operational run. And as we look out into week 2, remember that's when that third cutoff low comes in. And as it does so, adding more rain to California, it emerges as a low pressure center in the midsection of the United States. Very good moisture transport out ahead of it, very wet in through here, possibly more snow in through this area. As this next low emerges, again, this is next week, midweek next week. So that's putting it all together for you. What are temperatures going to do? Well, this is Monday's departure from normal temperatures. Let's let this get out into Tuesday. And as we see on Tuesday, where we've got colder than average weather, really going to be tucked away where there's snow in this part of Nebraska, Kansas, over this part of Minnesota, North Dakota, and here into, not Wyoming, but Montana. The cutoff low is now sitting over California, keeping it about 10 to 15 degrees below average. As I go into Wednesday, look at the warm-up happening out ahead of this. into Thursday. Look, the country's almost split north to south, so west versus east here in terms of our temperatures. Much above average over the eastern part of the United States, with 10 to 20 degrees cooler than average in the west. But remember, I told you behind this, big push at colder air coming in for Friday. Might be 25 degrees colder than average here. Getting into Saturday, that pushes all the way to the east, and this is the cool down for the end of our week. Now, going beyond that, let's just take a look at days 5 through 10 exclusively. So that cool down tends to linger into early next week. But as we talked about, the next cutoff low is emerging here, and that's going to give us a big warm-up out ahead of it. So if you look out here to day 10 through 15, we see that that next cutoff low is there. There is a warm-up here. And anything beyond this, trying to decipher this pattern, is going to be a discussion about whether or not we ridge over Alaska or parts of the North Pacific. In my Wednesday technical outlook, my long-range outlook, I'm going to talk about the major teleconnections and what they're doing. But I'm going to make a main story here to tell you the most important feature to watch is what's happening over Alaska as we press out of the month of March and into the month of April. And we do have some differences between April a year ago and April this year. And we're going to talk about that in this week's Wednesday long-range outlook. From there, I want to focus on two places internationally. One is Argentina, and two is this part of the Middle East, okay? Let's talk about what happened over the last week in Argentina. It's been very dry in southern Brazil and Argentina, but big thunderstorm clusters came through at the end of last week, and watch it again over the weekend right here. There they go, over the weekend pushing through Argentina. Next, if we come back here and just watch this again, a big low pressure system moved right over Israel, came into parts of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and moved over into Iran. And this is moving over into Pakistan early this week. Now, why we talk about that is because this rain in Argentina was critical for the crop there. And this is going to be a major factor for the locust we now are watching again in Saudi Arabia. Let's talk about South America first. Over the last month, you can see here from the 14th of February through the 14th of March, very dry in parts of Argentina and southern Brazil. We've started to hear about a reduction in the total estimated output of the crops in Argentina, in Paraná, and in Rio Grande do Sul. So this is Paraná and Rio Grande do Sul. We've seen some reports of increased pest pressure due to the hot, dry conditions in parts of Paraná as well, which is this northern state here. Now, over the next week, we see that much of Brazil's main growing area is favoring near average to wetter than average conditions. Same with Argentina. So we're probably not going to hear too much of a weather story coming out of South America as we progress into the next week to 10 days. But we're going to keep a close eye on this as we get into the month of April and we watch how this later planted safrinha crop is going to be doing. Outside of that, I just want to show you what's been going on. This is the newest video that emerged over the weekend of some of the desert locust in Saudi Arabia. Over there on the left, this is from the FAO. We're looking here at what their projections are for spring in terms of where these locusts are going to go. And what I'm concerned about are some of the numbers. 20 to 400 times increase, 400 times increase, 400 times increase, 20 times increase. And what I want everybody here to be watching is if we get these locusts into the Ganges River Valley over here in India before the monsoon hits, this could be critical for them spreading into China. Meanwhile, though, food security in this part of the world is going to be of utmost concern given how huge these storms have been. So we've got a lot to watch. I'll keep an eye on it for you all week and report back to you each day. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Thank you.